Good morning, my name is Jason Stepp with Stepp Manufacturing, and today we're going to do the safe operational training of the Stepp SBF bottom fired kettle behind me. We're going to go over the operations, some of the maintenance items, and just how the machine works in general. So we're going to kind of start at the front of the machine and work our way back. This particular model has an LP fired burner system on it. We also build these with diesel fired burners and diesel engines. This one's got a Honda gasoline engine to power the pumping system, which we'll go over in just a few minutes. But I always like to start at the front of the machine. We're going to start off with the towing hitch. The hitch is adjustable so you can make sure that your kettle is as level as possible. This particular unit is set up with electric brakes. It is wired in through your light plug on here. One of the things I like to take a few minutes and talk about is the electric breakaway, which is located right here in front of the battery box. That's for if in the event of a disconnection, that breakaway is going to apply the brakes on the trailer, so that if for some reason the hitch breaks or someone forgets to hook the hitch up and it comes off, it's going to lock the brakes up and hopefully, you know, stop that trailer safely. That's something for you guys as commercial vehicle operators that you need to make sure that you're using, is that safety breakaway. I see that not used quite a bit, but that is set up right here, you know, and in the event of a disconnect, it pulls that cable out and locks up the brakes. Right behind the hitch here, obviously we got safety chains. Our battery box is located right here. Inside the battery box there is, if you open this up, you'll see in the front, and I'll zoom in here in just a minute. But when you open up the battery box, you'll see that right here in the front of the battery box is a terminal strip. You've got your battery and your terminals here, but then you've got a terminal strip. That takes the wiring from the wire harness here from the trailer and goes right into here, the box, and then from here it goes back, you know, to power anything that's powered. This particular unit doesn't have a control box, but a lot of them do. If you ever have to replace the cord, it's a very simple, easy thing to do right in the front of the terminal strip. Behind the battery box we have our hydraulic tank. Nothing special there, it's just an all-weather, all-weight AW32 hydraulic oil. There is maintenance schedules in the manual. To change that, there is a spin-on filter down here. The hydraulic tank obviously supplies hydraulic oil to our product, or our hydraulic pump, which our hydraulic pump then turns our product pump that sprays the oil. And we'll go over the operation of that here in just a little bit also. Honda gasoline engine. When the Honda gasoline engine is running, it does charge the battery, so there's a charge circuit on it. It is electric start. Pretty self-explanatory. Most of you guys have run a Honda engine. You've got your on-off start switch over here. You've got your fuel shut-off on the bottom, and then your choke on the top. So when you first go to start it, you're going to choke it, start the engine. Once it's running, maybe go to half choke, and then turn the choke off. You also do have a throttle here, and when I get a little different camera angle, you'll be able to see that, and that'll control your speed. On this particular unit, you don't need to, you know, have that engine racing. You know, you just need to have it fast enough to do to operate the pump to spray. And we'll go over that also when we get to the pumping system. This unit's equipped with an LP burner system on it. It's got one LP bottle rack. I do want to talk about the bottle rack a little bit. This particular system is set up to burn liquid withdrawal, so it has a little different fitting on the LP tank. You can run a vapor. You may run out of fuel if you run a vapor tank. So a liquid tank actually has a stem in it. It goes all the way to the bottom of the tank and sucks the liquid fuel out. And then when it comes through the system, it actually vaporizes it right before it burns it. So again, a very simple system. This is a manual light, turn on and off as you need. And depending on what type of oil you're using, you won't need a ton of heat. It has about a 500,000 BTU burner on it, so it's got plenty of heat to do whatever we need, whether it's an AC type oil that we're heating up to 300 degrees, or with the LP burner you can actually monitor or regulate how much or how hot that burner is firing if we're running like a water-based emulsion that only needs 130, 150 degrees to get it warmed up. So it does have a safety strap to strap that tank in. You know, for a 100-pounder, or you could run a 30-pounder. The rack is adjustable if you want to go up or down with that, so it's just a couple bolts to do that. I'm going to grab the camera and zoom it in a little bit here on this LP system so we can kind of go over how to safely light that and operate that. The burner system is very simple to operate. It's much like a, you know, I always explain it like a Mr. Heater. Up here in Minnesota, we use those in our ice fishing houses all the time. But it's what we call a constant ignition system. So it's a very simple system. There's not much to go wrong with it, but it's very manual. So in the system, we have a filter, we have a regulator, then we have a pressure relief valve, and then this hose actually goes over to the lighting wand. Then we come down here to the system, and this is what we call a baso valve, or this is your safety valve. It's attached to a thermocouple. The thermocouple then runs down into the pilot light. You've got your main shutoff valve for the burner, and then your burner itself. So there's a small pilot light, and then your main burner. So why it's called a constant ignition is because that pilot light's going to stay constantly lit. So when we go to light this in the morning, we're going to take our lighting wand, light it manually with a lighter or a spark igniter. Then we're going to make sure that our burner's off and that our T-valve for our pilot light is open at least 4 turns. We're going to light the pilot light, but to do that we have to push this button in. This is an override button. So again, this is our safety valve. So if for some reason the flame goes out, it's going to shut this valve off, which is going to shut the supply of fuel off to shut the burner off. So if for some reason it blows out, you know, or doesn't stay lit, or it's got a bad burning flame, that burner is going to go out and lock itself out. So it doesn't keep pumping fuel, you know, that's not lit. So again, it's a very simple system. So this copper line here is actually your thermocouple, and it runs down to your pilot light. And I'll zoom in so you can see that here in just a minute. But that runs down to your pilot light. So when we go to light it, we have our burner off. We open this at least 4 turns. We light our lighting wand over there. We then stick our lighting wand in front of the pilot light and then push the red button down. Now you have to push and hold that red button down for 45 seconds to 60 seconds until that thermocouple is warm. You know, that safety thermocouple senses the temperature and sends a signal back to the safety valve to say, hey, you know, we're burning, life's good. As soon as you let go of the button, if the pilot light turns off, the thermocouple wasn't warm enough. So push the valve back in, relight it, hold it in until that thermocouple stays lit. When you let go of the button and it stays lit, then you know that the thermocouple's warm. After that's lit, then you can go ahead and turn your main valve on for your burner, and that'll light the main burner. Everyone asks me what your pressure should be at with a liquid withdrawal system. You should be anywhere from 11 to 22 pounds. Anything more than 22 pounds, and it becomes an unsafe situation. You actually start to spit liquid. You're not vaporizing the fuel anymore, and you get no more heat. So this should never need to be, you know, changed. And you may see that when you shut this off, you may see that pressure start to rise, but when the main burner's running, you know, the main burner's firing, you shouldn't see that pressure over 20 psi. During the summer when it's really hot and the main burner is off and just the pilot light's running, you may see that start to creep up, and that's just pressure in the lines. As soon as that burner's on, that pressure should be, again, somewhere between 11 and 22 psi. Most of the time they're, you know, right about 16, 17 psi, anywhere in there. To adjust that, you need a wrench to loosen the jam nut, and then you turn the regulator on, knob on the regulator. It's a little bit hard to see that pilot light there, but you're going to light that small burner first, and then once the small burner's going and the thermocouple feels that flame, then we're going to turn the main burner on again. Alright, so once your burner's lit and we've got our tank filled, here's your manway. The manway does have a pressure relieving latch on it. You'll see when we fire this, we always leave the latch unhooked, so in the case of emergency venting, you know, that cover could open up. The manway is equipped with an overflow / vent pipe, so if you overfill it, it's coming out of here. So, but you can see it has to be up into the manway collar to overfill that. Excuse me. We always recommend that, you know, this particular unit's a 300 gallon. You know, it's 300 gallons plus 5% for expansion in here. So we always recommend that you fill that up. You know, 300 gallons is going to be probably about down in here, so that once you start to heat it, it has some room to expand. So don't fill it to the brim, because number one, it'll come out the overflow / vent, and at some point your overflow and vent will plug up, which isn't good if you keep overfilling it, you know, and you get oil in there. But every time you hit the brakes, then, you know, you're going to have oil coming out the overflow. So we recommend that you leave your level down a little bit on the tank. This has an all welded cover, so the covers can't leak on it. So if it's going to leak somewhere, it's going to come out the overflow or out the manway cover, if you know, because you should have that latched when you're firing in the unit. We do recommend that you shut the burner off while transport. So get there in the morning, warm your kettle up, shut your burner off, go out to the job site, light your burner again. The unit's an insulated hopper, so it does hold its heat very well, and it does heat up fairly quickly. This is a bottom fired configuration, so that burner fires onto the bottom of the tank, you know, and just heats the whole tank up. There's no flue pipe or anything in this kettle. So that allows you to use that kettle right down to the very bottom, you know, or heat up very, very small amounts, but still have enough heat and firepower. Matter of fact, our bottom fired kettle has more BTUs than most flue fired kettles on the market, and heats up quicker and faster and easier. So when you're heating it, unlatch your manway cover. Very simple to latch it. It just folds over. It hooks. You can actually even padlock it if you want to prevent vandalism. But when you are using that, we recommend that you unhook that. All right. So now I'm going to go over the pumping system on this unit. It's very simple, easy to operate. There's not a lot of magic going on here. We've got a hand wand system on here, so you could spray potholes by, you know, with the hand wand. And then it also does have our economy tack bar on this particular unit. We do build them with a full-fledged circulating system on them. This particular unit does not have that, so this would be a good setup for water-based emulsions, where you don't need a ton of heat. But when you need to spray a large quantity area, you've got the ability to do that. Very simple to operate. You've got a forward and reverse on the pump, product pump here. Your product pump is actually located right here on the top of the kettle. We do that for a reason, because if you ever have a plugged up kettle or someone forgets to clean out the pump, you can put a small hand torch on that pump and get it thawed back out and keep it running. I do want to spend a few minutes talking about this hydraulic valve. This does more than just turn the pump on and off. It's actually a flow control valve. So the harder you stroke it, the more you stroke it, the faster the pump's going to go. You do not need to ever probably go in full speed. You need just enough flow, you know, and what normally guys do is they'll take the wand off if they're going to use the wand. They start to spray, and if it's too much or not enough, they just give the pump a little kick up with the hydraulic valve. So you can really control the flow with the control valve. And obviously you have forward and reverse, so if you get a plugged up nozzle, you can open the handle, put it in reverse, suck the pressure off of the hose, unscrew the nozzle, clean out. You know, if you get a little hard chunk of asphalt in there, you don't have any pressure on it. So that gives you the ability to reverse it. It also gives you the ability to suck the product back into the tank, or suck the hose out, suck the plumbing back out of the tank without having to use as much solvent to flush it. You can see this particular unit's equipped with a hose reel, so that it keeps your hose up and out of the area that you just sprayed. It does also have a boom on it, and it's all zip tied together for transport, but there's a pin over here, and when you're using it, I recommend you pull the pin out. There's a hole to put the pin back in, and then that'll just swing freely and go, you know, with the operator. Now when we go to use this, it's again a very simple system to use. You've got a couple of valves on the unit. I'm going to actually start up here on the top, and I'll take a little better camera angle with this. But we have a valve up here that says product or flush. Obviously if we want to spray oil, it needs to be, the handle needs to be in the product. So it'll suck that product up out of the tank, come into the pump, then it's going to come from the pump, and it's going to come down here to recirculate our spray bar. So I can either, you know, recirculate it or send it to the spray bar, or I can go up to the recirculate valve, which is also the WPC valve for the hose and wand. So If I want to use the hand wand, I'm going to leave this in recirculate. I'm going to leave this somewhere right here. You can also control your pressure from this WPC, the wand pressure control valve. So speed and pattern, and then you can also fine tune it here. But you want to leave this somewhere in the middle, because when I shut the handle off on the wand, then it's going to recirculate back to tank. So then that flow is going to come all the way over here and go back to tank. There's one last valve that we didn't talk about yet, and it's either flush or product. So you have two flush or products, because this is set up with a recirculating flush tank. So at the end of the night, I can pump through this, you know, we're out spraying potholes, and then I could circulate the oil back to the flush tank. So I can get all of those lines clean. Now the only line that does not have a recirculate back to the flush tank is the spray bar. So when you are using the spray bar, you do need to flush. You got to send flush through the nozzles, and unfortunately this system, the economy tack bar, does not have that recirculate line back. If you buy the upgraded bar, it does. So you have to have a place to flush that bar out through the nozzles, and we highly recommend that you flush the nozzles out, otherwise they're going to be plugged the next time you go to use them. So again, product or flush, pretty self-explanatory there. If we want product, we're going to turn it to product. If we want it to flush, we're going to turn it to flush. We come over here and we're going to be in spray bar or recirculate. Recirculate would send the oil up here and go back to tank. And then again, we're going to be in wand or recirculate. So if I'm here and I'm here, the product's going to come out of the tank, through the plumbing, back to the tank. So you can recirculate, make sure you got warm oil going through the plumbing system. And you'll be able to feel it, especially with water-based emulsion. It's about 150 to 180 degrees, depending on what spec oil you guys are using. But you'll be able to feel those lines will get warm. So the other thing that you're going to do is when we go to use the spray bar, which the spray bar does have, it does have vertical adjustment on it, but it also does have wings. So if you pull the pin, oops. So it has a wing on both sides, so then you have the ability to spray, you know, the full width of the unit. You do have to open each individual valve. You know, so depending on which valves I want to spray, you can see we got a little moisture in there. But depending on what valves you want to spray, say I only want to spray half the bar, I only open half of the valves for that bar. So how I'm going to function this when I want to spray through the bar is I'm going to be here and recirculate. I'm going to have my pumping forward. I'm going to have my valves open. If I want the whole spray bar open, I'll open all the valves in the bottom. And I'm going to walk alongside the unit, and when I'm ready to spray, I'm going to come up to spray bar. They're going to start driving and spray. When I'm done walking alongside, when we're done with the patch, I'm going to throw this and recirculate. And then, you know, because it's a non-circulating spray bar, those valves are going to be open, so you are going to get a little bit of drip and drizzle. The other thing you can do is if I'm up here and spray, and I put the pump from forward to reverse, it's going to suck that out. It'll prevent some of that dripping and drizzling. But once I go to the recirculate position, then it's sending the oil back to tank. So that's what I really want, you know, is my oil to be going back to tank. The economy bar is a great system, gives you the ability to spray some more oil. It is a little bit messier because it does drip, because it doesn't have the linkage to shut the valves off on the bar themselves. So that's the one downside of the econo bar. The upside is it's easy, it's simple, there's very little to go wrong with it. It's easy to clean. You'll see we've got pipe caps, so if someone forgets it full of oil, you can unscrew the cap and, you know, clean them out and thaw them out and flush them out if you need to. So we've made that very simple and easy to do. A couple other things on the back of the unit. You've got your thermometer here, and then you've also got your main drain valve to drain the unit. You know, if at the end of the year you need to clean the unit out, you drain it out, you have the ability to do that. On the flush tank also, you do have the ability to take your wand and stick it into the flush tank and flush through the hose. I always strongly recommend that you leave flush in the pumping system and in the hose. So at the end of the night, I'm going to flush the system out. So again, I'm going to go put my valve into flush, and whenever I change any of the valves, I always make sure that the pump is in neutral. Put the pump in neutral. I'm going to change from flush to product, flush to product. Make sure that this is in the recirculate position, which sends the flow, you know, here back to the wand. And then it's going to either go to the flush tank, so I'm going to circulate flush through there. But if I use the hose, I need to make sure that I turn this valve to wand to flush to through the wand. And you guys will see it. It'll change. It'll go from kind of sticky, thick, chocolate milk looking water-based emulsion to, you know, real clear, runny, you know, solvent that you're using for your flushing operations. Once you're done, put your pump in neutral again, and I leave it like that. Excuse me. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to come back. First thing I'm going to do is fire up my burner, get things going. While I'm doing that, I'm going to flush my pump again, because then I know my pump is clean and spinning. And you can actually see the shaft of the pump right here. And I'll change the camera angle here in just a minute so you can see that. But the pump is right here. You can see the shaft spinning. If that thing's spinning and you get good flush going back to the tank, then you can reverse it, suck the flush back, or you can choose to flush, you know, spray your flush out, you know, into a bucket and dispose of it properly. But that's up to you on how and where. You'll need to change your flush solvent probably every 3 to 6 times that you flush the system. So you can get multiple flushes out of it. You could choose to drain off a few gallons every day, or you could choose to run it for a couple of days and then dump the whole thing. It's up to you. It's a 15-gallon tank. It is set up so that it won't suck off the bottom, so as you use it, the heavies will start to settle to the bottom, so you can drain a few gallons off every day, or you can choose to change the whole thing every couple of days, like I said. Again, pretty simple system to use. I'm going to change the camera angle here so you can see kind of the pump and the different valves on the top of the kettle. We also have the ability to stick the wand back in the kettle and recirculate it. I do highly suggest, you know, buying a couple of nozzles for the wand, or you could steal one out of the bar, just so that if you get one that's plugged up, you could put it in a little can of solvent, you know, and put a clean tip in there. I have seen, at some point during the life of this unit, you're going to have a plug. So I have seen that happen quite a bit. Sometimes it's when you get a brand new batch of oil. You never know where the oil's coming from, and maybe the tanker that transported it had some crap in the bottom of the tank and you get it stuck in here. So the reason that we put the pump external on a water-based emulsion system is so that you have the ability to clean that pump out, or heat that pump up, excuse me. And when I say heat that up, so right here on the pump is the head of the pump. Usually what happens is that'll get stuck. You know, and I've even seen it where the tank is hot, the pump is cold, you turn the pump on and it goes stuck. That means you sucked up a gob in there, and we just got to warm that pump up. So we take a hand torch, you torch out the pump, warm it up a little bit, that pump will take off, and life is good. Everything on this system, with the exception of the hose for the wand, is metal lines. So if you get a plug up, or someone forgets to clean out the system, you can warm all of that plumbing up with a hand torch, even the metal flex hose if you have to, if someone doesn't clean the system out right. So I'm going to change the camera here so you can see the pumping system here. Again, it's a very simple, easy system to use. So, you know, if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call, but I'm going to show you this pump here. So you can see here, this is the shaft of the pump, this is the pump itself. So this is what you would heat with the hand torch, is the big pumpkin end of the pump, if you ever have to, which you will at some point have a bad batch of oil or something. The flush tank. Again, pretty simple to operate. Make sure before you even leave for the day that you've got flush in the tank. You know, obviously we ship them empty. You've got your main drain valve here. This is to fill and also to stick your wand in there to flush it, and you'll see there's a line going in and a line going out. So we're sucking out of the flush, going through the system, and coming right back. So it's just making that loop when we're doing the full recirculate, you know, and the 2 valves are in flush. Again, pretty simple system to use and operate, not very complicated. Very easy, very simple, very durable. You know, you'll notice that everything that Stepp Manufacturing builds is very heavy duty. If you have any questions, you know, make sure that you contact your local dealer and or give us a call. Our telephone number is on the side of the unit, so if you have any operational questions or maintenance questions on the unit, you know, don't hesitate to give us a call. With that, our training's done. It's, like I said, it's a pretty simple machine to operate. We appreciate your business. We thank you for your purchase, and we look forward to doing business with you in the future. Thank you.